Titanfall from Respawn Entertainment there, coming out on Xbox One, PC next week, and then on Xbox 360 2 weeks later. I am very, very happy to be sitting here with the creator of that video game, the Creeper from Minecraft, which I'm very happy to say we didn't stick on the green screen. It's a pleasure to have you today here, sir. Should we do the drum roll? Unveil who it is.
Oh.
Amazing.
Oh.
It's Vince Zampella from
what do you know?
Respawn Entertainment, everyone.
I thought I got to keep it on the whole time.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
All right.
Is your mic still in the right place? Yeah, sure, it's perfect. I like it. Sir, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Last time I saw you...
A little warm in there.
Yeah, it's only going to get warmer, don't worry about it.
Yeah, they made me sit in there for hours.
All right. The last time I saw you, it was a week before the beta started. What's it like being on the opposite side of that? Because before, very few people had seen the game, whereas now about 2 million people have played it.
That's true. The response to the beta was great. You know, we found a few problems early on that we fixed, so we're in better shape for launch. That's always good. A lot of people got to play it. A lot of positive response coming out of it, so we're pretty excited, pretty happy.
Were you anticipating that type of response, or were you optimistic, cautiously optimistic about it, or?
You always hope for that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we wanted that type of response, get that many people through. You know, we were hoping we didn't, crash everything. We ended up filling the servers. We had limited capacity for beta, but we wanted to fill them at the end there and just to see what would happen, how things were handled at max capacity, and it went well.
It's like 2 million people in total then in the end?
It was about 2 million people that got through, not simultaneously, but through the whole course of the beta.
And did you expect to have it that big? Because at the start it seemed to be like this gold rush of can I get Titanfall codes, and then at a certain point it was like when the ruble debased, they just became worthless because it was an open beta then. Was that always the plan, or?
Well, we wanted to always get as many people through as possible.
Yeah.
It's just about capacity and kind of pushing people through in a manner that we can test things. So the goal was to see how many people, we didn't know with Friday being Valentine's Day, Monday being a holiday, we didn't know what our fall off was. So if everybody stayed and played the entire time, without sleeping, we'd have been able to get less people through. So fortunately, people passed out at some point, and we were able to get other people in to replace them and cycle in as many as possible.
Did you see people drop off on Valentine's Day to spend time with their loved ones, or are video game people just horrible
the worst
partners?
I think that's when the servers were down for about 7 hours on Friday. And I don't think it was coincidence. I think it was somebody's spouse that paid somebody off to, to have that error happen. So I'm still going with that one.
Awesome. What has the beta taught you guys about the capacity for these servers going into the full launch?
A lot about load balancing, and there's certain, like when you're in a lobby server, really what your ping is doesn't matter. So we can kind of shuffle them around based on there's different peak times for different places.
Yeah.
So we now say, okay, we can put a lobby server on somewhere where it's a little higher ping, but it doesn't matter. And then when you do the game server, those are reserved on areas of peak capacity.
And this was all running on the cloud as well, the Xbox cloud that gets thrown around so much?
That's right.
Yeah. So how does that differ from, say, a typical server that's used to run back-end games, the back end of games?
The biggest difference is that we don't have to configure it or pay for it, which is, when we're a small team, we're a startup team making a game, that's gold to us. We have the resources of Microsoft on that back end for us. So that it's been absolutely critical to getting the game done.
Cool. I've got a bunch of questions coming in here. If you have any questions at home, by all means, put them in the chat or in the comments. I got a question of my own. You can read them there if you want straight away. I'm going to skip all the horrible ones. I have a question of my own. You guys obviously showed up the beta pretty open about what was in terms of content. Are you guys planning to reveal any more stuff over the next week? Because we're only like 7 days from launch at this stage. In terms of content,
I think the internet's handled that for us.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Reddit, I guess. There was a post a couple of weeks ago, and then over the weekend there was kind of some leaks about, supposed leaks about the turrets, the various maps. There might be 15 is the one that's been thrown around. Is any of that stuff, how true? Do you guys look at that stuff and go, oh, we've been found out, or is any of that information incorrect?
I haven't read it all, so I can't say if some of it's incorrect or not, but I mean, at some point you just kind of have to throw up your arms and say, all right, you got us, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Fair enough. First question here from Countdown Ended. What's your favorite weapon to use in Titanfall, and what Titan class do you use yourself a lot?
I generally use the shotgun, just because it's fun. And I'll go with an Atlas most of the time. It's kind of a good balance, so.
There was a burn card in the beta that allowed you to use the Strider.
That's right.
That would come down like straight away. Did you guys know when you were putting that stuff in that, because originally it was only the Atlas was the only Titan you could actually use in the game?
Yeah.
Were you guys aware of that stuff?
Yeah.
Trying to mess with people, give them a little taste?
Yeah, there were ogre cards in there as well, and we decided to let it go. They're pretty rare, so not that many people got to see them, but when you did, it's a cool bonus.
One big question that's been coming up a lot, Teller76567, it's a great username, asks, why did you step away from making a single player campaign to focus on this campaign multiplayer concept?
It's about looking at where people spend most of their time. You know, generally people will burn through a single player campaign as fast as they can. You know, you spend 5-6 hours, and 80% of the work goes into that, and then you go and spend 100 hours in this thing that gets, it's bare bones. It's the minimum you can get away with. For us, it was about pushing the boundaries of what multiplayer is. So let's take all that great single player stuff, build up the world. That world that you're going to spend 100 hours in should be the most full featured.
So that single player campaign, how many levels does that exist over? Do you play it from both sides? How does that work?
You do play it from both sides. It's a short experience. It's meant to be a couple hours on each side, and then from there you don't have to touch it again. You can replay it. You don't have to. You can just go straight into regular multiplayer.
Is it almost like a sort of a tutorial for the full game? Does it kind of work that way? Do you get exposed to a lot of the mechanics that way, or is it the same leveling system as a multiplayer?
It's the same leveling system as multiplayer. It's we have a tutorial section. So it's not meant to be training. It's meant to be introduction to the lore, the world, the story, to get you engrossed in what we're trying to bring to you.
So you're going to launch with a bunch of maps. There's a lot of, it's a type of game where it evolves as you play and as you level up and as you sort of learn how to play the game. But like looking months ahead, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, do you guys have any plans for like season packs, DLC, that sort of stuff? This is an EA game as well. It's being published by those guys. That seems to come hand in hand with some of the stuff that they are involved in. So are you looking to do some of that? Are you being pressurized to do it, or how does that work?
We're not being pressured to do any of that at all. We plan to do DLC to support the game. We're going to do DLC, paid DLC. We're also going to do free updates. We're going to add in, there's things that we want in the game that we didn't get to ship in the final game. So we'll add like private matches and things like that for free. There will be some paid DLC. We're going to do a season pass just because it's, if you buy it up front, you get a deal. We're not doing microtransactions. Yeah. So, a season pass is just buy it up front and you get a better price. Seems to be good.
You were obviously part of the team that created Call of Duty, which ended up being sort of the seminal first-person shooter of the last generation. How important do you think it is for Titanfall that there is this sort of community drive behind it, that there are certain people who are championing it for like the long-term success of it?
I think that's the longevity of the game is all about the fans and how how well people take to it and how long they can play it. So I think that's absolutely critical that we get that fan base behind us. And
you've been involved in obviously big games where people get passionate about it either way. Are you used to the sort of the backlash that comes from it? Because there was, like, I guess Titanfall came out when the beta was dropped. It was sort of like a dead zone in the games price as well, and then suddenly it was like Titanfall overload in a way, and there was a sort of a weird back reaction from a certain part of the community about that. Are you sort of used to that sort of stuff, or does that play into the way you guys market this game or talk about the game when you see the sort of the battling between either console fanboys or series fanboys?
I didn't see a lot of the battling.
Do you just stay away from it? Is that?
I like to think I'm not ignoring it. I mean, we see, we watch a lot of the responses. We pay attention to the community. So, we like to pay attention to that as kind of a flavor. I mean, we have to design the game based on what we think is going to be fun, what we think is going to be right.
Mr. John 07 asks, how many maps will be available at launch? You guys talking about that sort of stuff yet?
Well, we haven't talked about it, but I think you have, so you can give
I believe 15 is the number that I heard flying around on the internet, and the internet never lies.
Never.
So do you think that a lot of that stuff on that post then is accurate, from the machine gun turrets to the chain link, the rails and whatnot?
I'll have to go look at it. I honestly.
Okay, all right, no worries. I gotta ask.
I'd like to ask about the Xbox 360 version. There's not been a whole lot talked about when it comes to that. I know it's being made by Bluepoint.
That's right.
Who have done a lot of really good HD conversions of some last-gen games. I'm just curious, are all the features that people are going to be playing on the Xbox One and PC also going to be present in that version?
That's the goal. I mean, the game's obviously not done yet. They're,
right.
you know, they're doing a port of our game, so they have to, as we come in hot, we just, you know, we just launched the game, so we have to, you know, we have to get it inserted our day one patch. So
Oh, wow.
they now have to take that and integrate it into their game, and so they're naturally lagged behind us. So the goal is to get it as close as possible.
Yeah.
It obviously won't be exact. It's on a less powerful system.
But a lot of people own that system, though. I mean,
Absolutely.
I haven't even upgraded to the current gen consoles at this point. So that's actually what I'm eyeing. I play on PC a lot, but for competitive first-person shooters, I like live, and I play on a 360. So, I mean, can players expect the same longevity of support in terms of upgrades and patches?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think that's we'll have to sit down with EA and talk about that. I mean, my assumption is yes, but I don't know that I'm the best person to speak for that, unfortunately.
Okay.
You guys have a lot of interesting relationships. You're a new studio. Obviously, there's a lot of talent from yourself to a lot of the folks I talked to a couple of weeks ago that have worked on loads of different projects across a breadth of different genres and platforms. But you're still stuck in this interesting position where you're partnering with EA from a publishing perspective, and then also probably the most interesting relationship is that with Microsoft. Did you always feel like you were going to create a game that was going to be for one specific console, or was that a sort of a business decision that comes from just the realities of being a small team and trying to create a game of this type of scale?
Yeah, I mean, when we started the company, that wasn't the goal. I mean, we hadn't even been versed on the next-gen console stuff yet, So as we started getting into development, we got, told about the console. We talked to Microsoft first, just, because of our relationship with Microsoft. Looking at what we wanted to make and what Microsoft was delivering, and being able to work with them to kind of fashion what that was appealing to us, and we thought it made for the best game possible.
Was it always the plan to have a bundle to be that fundamental to the early support of their new console?
No, the bundle stuff came much later, pretty recently. Yeah.
Is that exciting?
It is.
Or is it like terrifying in one way to be that important to the early days of a new console like that?
It's exciting. Yeah.
What'll you be playing it on?
I play a lot on PC. I also play on Xbox One. So I go back and forth between the two. I mean, some of it just because I have to, some of it because I enjoy both.
Yeah. Xbox 360 version a little bit?
Again, we've been focusing on the games that we're developing. So now I think once we get this one out the door, we'll have that couple weeks to turn our eyes over to the 360 version.
We have so many questions coming in. I'm not surprised at all. I'm going to pick a couple more. So Intex on Twitter asks, what's the rationale behind the burn card system? Do you feel like does it overpower players in a certain way, or is it a way of teaching them new ways of playing the game?
It's more like power-ups. So you want to have this system where things unlock over time, and we do have that as you're playing. But now we can give you these things that they might overpower you, but for a very short amount of time. It's one life. As you die, that's gone. So it's a good way to get things that you couldn't normally unlock over playing the game, because it unbalances it and lets you kind of give that to players and expose them to new things. It's a good, fun power-up system.
Another question from Thabit Nusal asks, was the idea of man against machine warfare fundamental at the beginning, or was that something that came later?
It was pretty fundamental at the beginning. That how important it was kind of varied from time to time, but it was really about that, the size discrepancy, that man and machine, cat and mouse kind of gameplay, and that was really kind of core to what we set out to do. Yeah,
when we were talking to the guys from Respawn down in LA as well, they brought up a load of interesting sort of shining back to games like Unreal Tournament and Quake, that sort of fast and frenetic type of multiplayer. Were those games that you played at all back?
Absolutely.
Like, what type of first-person shooters did you play that kind of inferred the way you design games?
I definitely played all the, Quake 3 was, a game that I played for a long time. Counter-Strikes, Unreal, even back to the Doom.
Peter, you got any more questions for the man? I'm gonna pull one out of here from the chat.
I am so curious about the Blue Point production, only because I'm a big fan of theirs, but I know that's not.
You should have them on.
Yeah, I would love to. Where are they based out of, actually?
Austin.
Austin? Okay.
All down there. A1 Trans Design asks, how interactive will the creatures be in Titanfall? This is another leak that came via Mother Internet. Have you got anything to say about the creatures we see flying around, or is there any interactivity there at all?
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say whatsoever.
DLC? Yeah.
Who knows? If you had a Titan for a day in real life, what would you do with it? Asks Tiger's Eye 85.
I would step on the guy that leaked all our.
Or supposedly leaked.
Were you guys involved in that commercial that was put out by Microsoft heavily? The one with the dudes walking down the street with a big Titan blowing up stuff. What was that like, putting together something like like how do you even pull yourself away from from creating a game to be involved in that sort of?
There's an ad agency that does it. So they show us the ideas and we comment on it.
Rubber stamps.
Hopefully we work together harmoniously, in theory.
James Okugera asks a question a lot of people have been asking: will Titanfall remain an exclusive throughout its franchise, and do you think this is the first step in a franchise that you want to continue making?
I don't think we can say that we want it to be a franchise until it's successful first. If the first game comes out and flops, then I can say it all I want and it means nothing.
Is it the type of project that you want to keep developing?
I could see that there's definitely things that we would like to continue on. So I could see a sequel working, absolutely.
What's it like? This is the first game you've released, I guess. It's been 4 years since you founded Respawn. You've been developing this game for probably closer to 2.5 or 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's about right. A little over 2 years, 2.5.
What does it feel like?
Good development time.
Considering the torrid time you would have had with all that happened in the previous game with Activision and whatnot, what's it like to actually have the narrative of you as a designer just be about a game again? Like, have you been looking forward to next week for a couple of years?
Yes and no. I mean, there's definitely times coming to it now where we are and being so close to it, it feels really good. It feels like it has been too long.
And how are you looking forward to next week? How do you feel about reviews when they start coming out? Will you be? Apparently, you don't go on the internet very often. So on review embargo day, will you be hitting the button, or does the people who play the game, are they more important than the reviews?
The people are definitely important. The reviews, are also, they kind of set the tone for what people think of the game. So you kind of have to look at both. I like to say I won't be crushed if it gets bad reviews as long as people like it, but I might be.
You've got a good reputation to uphold at this stage.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Are you guys nervous at all about the first time that servers go down and people won't be able to play? I'm sure that's the last thing you want to happen.
That's stuff that's out of your control, I guess.
Yeah, but then does the burden fall on EA or on Microsoft? I mean, I'm sure Microsoft at that point, but I mean, how do you prepare for something like that, considering what this game is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it falls on Microsoft. It also falls on us because, at the end of the day, it's our game. It's not just Microsoft's problem. It is ours. So, we take it very seriously. And, while we hope that doesn't happen, I like how you say it's a foregone conclusion when it happens.
And unfortunately, things like that do happen.
I think, it'll depend on how we respond. And I think we need to respond quickly and communicate to people what's happening and let them know why and let them know when things will be fixed, and hopefully, we're all in it together.
Just drop a Titan at their door so they can use it in real life.
There you go.
Yeah. Perfect. Vince Zampella, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about Titanfall, one of the biggest games coming out this year and possibly the biggest game, biggest next-gen game that people have been looking forward to as well.
No
best
pressure.
of luck next week. Yeah, just saying, just don't screw it up. That's all I'm saying. If you can just zip up that hood the whole way.
Just hide.
No one will know what the hell is going on. Thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.